Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to a brand new video here today, and welcome to some pre-season testing of our own of an F1 2020 mod. Now, stick with me here for the beginning of this video, because I need to explain the ins and outs of this mod, the background basically, but today we're going to be taking this mod around the Circuit de Cataluyna at Barcelona, and doing our own little pre-season test race, essentially, in the Alpha Tauri of Pierre Gasly. But let's explain the background to this mod. So, this mod, this F1 2020 mod, is made on the F1 2018 game. Now, you may be wondering, what on earth is that? If you're wondering, then please watch this video in the top right annotation card, and you'll see why this mod is made on F1 2018. Long story short, F1 2019 is not very moddable, at least not moddable to the point where you can make a nice season package mod for the new season, or even just any kind of fantasy kind of season you want to do. You can't make a nice package mod. The details and why that is, and why it's still very annoying that Codemasters have kind of stopped that happening, are in that video on the top right annotation card, so check that out if you want to get a bigger explanation of why this mod is not made for the current F1 2019 game. But yeah, this is a mod made for F1 2018. So this 2020 season mod is made by the same absolute legends who made the 2019 mod, and pretty much a lot of the actual big season mods you might see that are very popular on Race Department over the years. KRISDIX, I'll leave links to his YouTube channel and Twitter socials. Please do go check him out. He's an absolute insane modder on the F1 game, and he does it just for the love of it, really, and he just makes insane mods, a la this mod here for F1 2018, but you'll see what I mean when we go to play it. But there's so many aspects of this mod that just turn this game, which is now 2 years old, just into something completely new and is enjoyable and so refreshing here. So at this current stage with the mod, like I said, we're doing our own little pre-season testing. This mod is in a beta form, essentially, that KRISDIX has given me a link to, so there's still things to be updated, a lot of things still to be worked on before a full release for this mod is available, basically. So right now at the moment, we've got all the 2020 cars with all the kind of liveries that we've got in pre-season testing. So the Renault is in the kind of black livery instead of its kind of launch livery that will be in the full season. We've got all the driver transfers though, so Ocon in the Renault, we've got Latifi in the Williams. The handling model is also as similar as we can get it to the modern 2019 game. So in 2018, of course, you guys know the handling model was very different to 2018. It was a bit more slidey and kind of, you know, basically more oversteer, and the front end was a lot sharper, whereas in 2019, the handling model was a bit more understeery. KRISDIX done his best job to kind of merge the two together and kind of make it a 2019 handling model, but a little bit simpler in a way. And actually, after doing this race that you're about to see in this video, I really enjoyed it. I actually got used to it quite quickly there, so there's some characteristics you can very much see that are from 2019, and then there are a few little moments here and there we can clearly see the kind of 2018 handling model kicking in here, but it's the best kind of compromise we can get, and it's a real enjoyable, actually easy to kind of take to and kind of learn handling models, so really pleased with that kind of sense. So everything's there. There's still some things to be updated. Like I said, this mod is in a beta at the moment, so things like the track sponsors and whatnot are still to be updated, but the kind of major parts of this mod are all there in terms of the 2020 season. So we're going to delve into it. Like I said, we're going to go and do a pre-season testing race, essentially, at the Circuit de Cataluyna at Barcelona, and we're going to be driving as Pierre Gasly in his brand new looking Alpha Tauri. So we're just doing here today a small little 25% pre-season tester race, so it's going to be a one-stop from the soft to the medium tyres. In terms of fuel, we're going to kind of lower that down to 1 lap of fuel. That I wasn't too sure of how the fuel was going to play around compared to the 2019 game, so I thought I'd just go for 1 lap there extra. And so let's get into this then. We start from P16 on the grid. We've got the Ferrari on the front row alongside the Mercedes car to 5 red lights for this pre-season race at the Circuit de Cataluyna of Barcelona. We get underway. It's an okay start for us compared to Latifi there on the left-hand side. Giovinazzi behind us in the Alfa Romeo. Ocon in the Renault there on the left, and Stroll gets very close to Norris's rear end as we go into turn 1. Norris trying to follow Sainz through side by side. Ahead of them is Grosjean, I think, with someone else, as we get down the inside and overtake Ocon nice and early there in that Renault in the pre-season testing livery that they're sporting at the moment. We're going to now try and size up a move on the Canadian here. Stroll leaves us some room on the outside there. We're going to go the long way around, and so we're side by side already with the AI here on this mod. You've got to remember, obviously, this 2018 game AI with a 2020 mod, so forget it's a 2020 mod. Remember, they're the 2018 AI, so it was kind of a weird kind of sensation, almost in a way, racing these AI again after so long of not playing this game on the base game. But you know, they were still very racy on the F1 2018 game. Maybe not as racy as the 2019 AI, but they still put up a decent fight, and it's going to be still quite fun to race the season mod, essentially, once we get on with the full kind of full release and the full series. But here we go now, trying to get a move done on Lando Norris and that brand spanking new lovely blue side-podded McLaren there. Down the inside we went with a bit of a switchback from the right side of the circuit to the left there. Now we find ourselves on the outside on the exit of that high-speed chicane, and Norris, a little bit of a tap on our rear end, but we keep it through up into P12 now. Now we can try and get on the back of Carlos Sainz, who's attacking, I think that's Sergio Perez in the Racing Point car, because we've already overtaken Stroll there on the opening lap. So we now move on to lap number 3. Ahead of us, Sainz may try a late lunge on Perez. He goes for it there to lock up, though, from the Spaniard. Bad mistake there from the Spaniard there. And so we're up into P11 then. Thank you very much. Free position. A little bit of a wobble on the rear end there as we exit the corner, but through turn 3, Perez going slow. I believe he's got an issue, because my engineer has told me previously on this, prior to this lap, that Perez does have an issue with this car, so he's going slow. We're again on the outside of the Racing Point car at that right-hander into the left there. Down the inside we get it. Rear end steps out a little bit as we drift through up into P10, but Perez very slow. I'm pretty sure he does have an issue, because my engineer, I think, told me on the previous lap at the end of lap 2 onto lap number 3 before we cut onto that highlight clip. So just moving on then to focusing on the rest of the grid, just to kind of see what everyone else is doing. We've got Leclerc in the lead then of this pre-season test race, ahead of Valtteri Bottas, then Verstappen, I believe, followed by Vettel, Albon and Hamilton. You've got to remember, guys, this is a pre-season beta kind of mod at the moment, so the performances are basically very randomized in terms of KRISDIX has made the performances to, I think, day 3 with this latest one I've got, day 3 of week 1 of pre-season testing. But you've got to remember, it's so early days with this mod, so this won't be the final performance levels. We won't get those until, you know, the Australian Grand Prix pretty much there, so that's why you may see the Ferrari in the lead, although even though it looks like the Mercedes is miles ahead of the Ferrari at the moment in real life pre-season testing. So take everything with an asterisk in terms of before you start commenting below about the performance levels and getting agitated by that. It's very early days for the real life 2020 season and very early days for this mod, so just for now take everything with a pinch of salt. But at the moment we watch some great action here between the McLaren of Carlos Sainz and the Racing Point of Sergio Perez. Now this might be something that's similar to real life, a checkerboard of McLaren and Racing Point, because of course Racing Point are pretty much a Mercedes W10 copy, so they may find themselves leaping themselves up the grid order compared to last year, and they might actually find themselves kind of annoying and bugging McLaren, basically, where McLaren probably thought they're going to be kind of clearing away the kind of leaders of the midfield here, depending on how Racing Point's Mercedes copy translates to genuine pace when we get to the Australian Grand Prix. So that might be quite similar actually. Behind them then you got a kind of whole gaggle of cars, the Renaults, the Alfa Romeo, and then the Williams as well, kind of all checkerboard through and kind of all kind of just bundled together. Basically it's all very tight actually at the back, it looks like there at the moment. This entire midfield shot here in one go, looking very, very close together. But we now move back to our POV. Lap number 6 now, chasing after Romain Grosjean in P9. I believe ahead of him is Magnus and his teammate there, trying to fend off Daniel Ricciardo in the second Renault that we've seen in this race. And Ricciardo on the outside, I think Magnussen has tried to defend that as best he could, but Ricciardo's got the job done on the outside to the inside of turn 2, and he's up the order. But now we close up to all three of these guys, slowing each other up basically with dirty air as well, and we'll be able to get away from that kind of massive midfield fight down to the bottom. You can see on the minimap, nowhere to be seen. Actually, we've got a train similar then at the top end there with the Mercs, the Ferraris, and the Red Bulls. But here we go now, looking to try and overtake Romain Grosjean here with a bit of a cut-in, a tighter line on the left-hand side. Get the power down a little bit earlier. Can we snake one to the inside there? It's going to be a little bit fine on the curb, and also on the right-hand side with Grosjean leaving us the space there. But we get the job done just before the virtual safety car comes out here as well. So we have to slow down to the delta time there, but thankfully we got the move done just before the yellows came out. And now we just wait for the virtual safety car to come back in then. So slot under yellows through into the last sector, the last few corners, but trying to time this correctly, as now been told we're going to start going green soon. So timing this correctly through the last corner. You can see Grosjean dives into pit lane, but now we've now gone green, and I've just got that right to the point where I've got a good run actually now on Magnussen and Ricciardo. Magnussen equally has got a great run on Ricciardo, so Ricciardo is probably the worst out of all of that in terms of very slow off the restart. So down the inside we go of the Australian there, and we're just going to see that car through very fine margins on the left-hand side. But myself and Magnussen then really got that to perfection in terms of we started to accelerate just as it was going to go green, and as the delta time didn't close up to red on the top right there, and so we're up into P5 and P4 respectively, as we also had a few cars actually. I think it was Vettel, Hamilton, and I think Albon all came in under the virtual safety car for their pit stop, so they might get an advantage on the cars around them at the top end of this test race here. But we're coming out into the pit lane for our one and only pit stop of the afternoon then, for a set of medium yellow wall tyres there. Magnussen in as well, Ricciardo in, and the remainder of the top guys there. But here we go now, and you can see there with the pit crew all updated with the brand new liveries there for the pit crew as well for Alpha Tauri. So now we come through, not lost any time to Magnussen, or gained really anything there to him, so we remain there there ahead of Ricciardo, but behind Magnussen. But there goes Grosjean, who has in fact jumped us then. Grosjean dived to the pit lane. He's made some contact though with Magnussen. So another bit of realism there maybe with the mod. Grosjean and Magnussen make some contact there. Surprise, surprise. But Grosjean dived into the pit lane, and now Grosjean's, what on earth is he doing there? Grosjean has lost his front wing there, or a bit of his front wing, so almost takes me out there because I didn't really see he was going to go that slowly. As I was going to say, Grosjean came in as the virtual safety car ended, so he might... Grosjean came into the pit lane just as the virtual safety car ended, so he must have got just a tiny advantage there with a few seconds to jump myself and come alongside Magnussen there, but obviously he's now bottled it because he's made some contact with K-Mag as they enter turn 1, and so you can see here struggling to get past him though because he's basically a massive mobile chicane at the moment at every apex. They're going to have to try and eventually see this through and dive down the inside of this back straight there, get the move done eventually, but frustrating times to be stuck behind him for a whole lap there with damage on his front wing, but we get the job done eventually up into P8, and now we've got the clean air to try and chase after Magnussen, who's gained a few seconds on us after that entire kerfuffle on that lap. Meanwhile, looking at the front then, Leclerc still leads the way. Vettel now in second place because he's leapfrogged so many cars there with that pit stop under the virtual safety car, and he's now going to come through with DRS and try and close up to his teammate there. So 1-2 for Ferrari. So like I said, very much a pre-season early days mod, and meanwhile behind Bottas with a massive mistake there, and he's down from P3 to P4. Hamilton through into that podium slot then in this test race. You've got Verstappen following close behind, and Albon a little bit lagging there in the final 6th position there in the kind of with the top 3 teams. But Bottas with a bad mistake into turn 1. It just looked like he locked up there as Hamilton tried a half-hearted attempt there. I guess kind of worked in a way. Hamilton scared him off the road into turn 1. So the Finn, who was in second place, now sees himself down to P4. Then behind you can see myself trying to get away from Grosjean and Ricciardo's. Those two squabble and doing my best to try and catch up to Magnussen. It'll take us a few laps there, but we eventually get through on towards lap number 12, and we can see Magnussen in our sight up ahead. The DRS pulling us quite close, but not close enough to make a move. He does go a little bit defensive though, K-Mag, and he slows himself down to turn 1 and almost makes some contact with us on the front end there. So almost like a half brake check and kind of half-hearted defense there from the Dane in the Haas, and so we have to kind of keep going in through to sector 2, maybe make a move into the high-speed chicane potentially. It's been a good spot for us so far with about, I think, 2 or 3 moves so far in this test race here at this spot, trying to go wide on the right, try and cut in tighter. That time hasn't really worked out though because he locked up on the front left, and so Magnussen maintains the momentum and very much ahead of us there in terms of we can't make a dive from this far back, although I'm sure Crofty would like to think so if he was commentating on this race. We move now through up the hill now, and we're going to get that second bite of the cherry of DRS now on hot lap mode. DRS open. We're going to go to overtake mode, or no, just stick with hot lap mode actually on standard mixture as well on the fuel. Round the outside we go. Just have to try and thread the needle here. Magnussen, will he give us the room? He might just do. Bit of a wobble though from him. Remember contact there, and we'll have to make a half drift to keep the car in a straight line. More contact with K-Mag there, and so Magnussen getting very, very aggressive, as you might imagine he would do in real life there. We stick it down the inside though, maybe go for the switch back on the exit of the chicane into the last corner, practically pushing him through that corner there as we get a much better exit there. But a massive fight there with Magnussen in sector 3, but eventually get the job done. Overtake mode, DRS open, squeeze him through on the left, and we're up into P6 of this Grand Prix. And that's actually because Max Verstappen has had some sort of issue in this Grand Prix, and this is why then. So this was whilst I was catching up to Magnussen and fighting Magnussen. This is what was happening up ahead. You've got Bottas trying to come back at Lewis Hamilton for that P3 position in this test race there. Down the inside, he's gone to turn 2, gets the job done, but Hamilton will stick with him then for the very next lap. Still very much in the DRS range here, so he's going to come at him with a rate of knots. Meanwhile, the Ferrari's also going side by side there. I think I saw in the corner of my eye, but there goes Hamilton now, the long way around there. He'll turn to the inside though for that turn 2, so you can see the advantage you'll get. And then through turns 3 though, Bottas keeps his nose in there. Fair play. And so the two Mercs still side by side through that entire flat-out right-hander. Verstappen closing up now due to them slowing each other down there, but some beautiful fighting between the two Mercs here with this 2020 mod. Bottas keeps the position though for P3. Hamilton has to stick with P4 for another lap, then have to go again on the next one. But you can see now Verstappen's closed right up to them, and meanwhile the two Ferraris getting away. Leclerc still leads from Sebastian Vettel. We now move through the next lap then, both with DRS open. Verstappen and Hamilton there. Hamilton pressurizes Valtteri Bottas and into turn 1. Lock up there from Bottas. It's a massive mistake and a bit of contact made with Verstappen there. Albon's now also on the scene, but it's a massive bit of damage for Verstappen and Bottas there. The front right side of Bottas' front wing is off. I think the same thing can be said for Verstappen, although on his left side of the front wing there, it was just a copycat situation of what happened earlier in the Grand Prix of Bottas being under pressure from Hamilton, bottling it into the brake zone, locked up, went wide, but this time Verstappen tried to be opportunistic, went down the inside of him into turn one, didn't work out, and both of them come off worse, and so Albon is going to be right up the back of Verstappen. And like I said, this is actually technically a kind of replay basically, because this was happening while Star was catching Magnussen and overtaking him. So we now move on to lap number 15 then. Magnussen is sticking with me though, to be fair, keeping me honest, but we are both catching Valtteri Bottas now. We've overtaken Verstappen because he's made a pit stop for that damage. Bottas has not, as we successfully defend against Magnussen there, as he tried to make a move on the outside with DRS, but just couldn't slow the thing down in time there. We can see now Verstappen sets Voss up the Grand Prix because he's behind us now on a fresh set of soft tyres, I would imagine, and the front wing change. But Bottas elected to keep on limping on to the end of this Grand Prix. So instead of just gaining the position for free with the pit stop, we're going to have to try and catch him and overtake him on track. But that won't be much of an issue because he's very slow with that damage to his front wing, as we're now on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. And this is it. We could get a great P5, very lofty P5 to be fair, in the Alpha Tauri here with Pierre Gasly. It's just going to be about patience here really, and a matter of kind of when it happens, not if really, because that damage to Bottas is far too large for him to really keep it. But you can see, trying our best to get the move done a little bit early there on the outside of that right-hander, but just wasn't going to work out. And so we have to stick through up the hill then into Sector 3. Got to get the job done then late on the lap there. Very wide, DRS open, going to make a massive lunge down the inside because I knew he was going to be slow on the braking and the turn in as well. A little bit of contact made on the front left tyre there, but we now go side by side, give him the room. Bottas squeezes us through there. We're on the inside for that curb, and that's always very awkward because the car basically goes skipping over it, so had to leave the space there and kind of let it go. Instead, we're going to have to try and make a very late lunge, pretty much into the third last corner now, into the chicane. Through that, we're still side by side as Bottas still tries to maintain the position. I mean, fair play for being that aggressive there. We come through eventually, literally in the last corner of the last lap to get the P5 there at this pretty entertaining pre-season test race at Barcelona. Sebastian Vettel then in the end won that one against Leclerc. Pretty good stuff there actually, because Vettel at one point was down in P5 and was quite far away from his teammate Leclerc, who pretty much dominated most of that test race there. Like I said, remember, it's early days for this 2020 mod. It's early days for the actual real life 2020 season, so the performances are nowhere near realistic at the moment. That will get better and better as we go on towards the real life Australian Grand Prix, and by the time we get to that and launch the 2020 mod career mode series essentially on the channel, the performances should be a bit more realistic. Of course, it's early days, and like I said, things are still being worked on. The mod is still in a beta here. But guys, hope you enjoyed that first look at the 2020 season mod by KRISDIX here for the F1 2018 game. If you did enjoy the video, then be sure to smash the like button. Let me know in the comments below if you're excited for the 2020 season mod career mode, and maybe some early suggestions of maybe what team you guys might want to see me do for this year. Last year I did Ferrari, so this season maybe looking to do something different, maybe one of the other top 3 teams, Merc or Red Bull, or maybe a midfield team. Let me know. Like I said, be sure to go check out KRISDIX. I'll leave his links to the YouTube and his socials in the description there. Absolute legend of the game, basically, of making a mod like this, which is basically turned this 2-year-old game to such an enjoyable thing to drive, really, just as enjoyable as it is to record all the other kind of content I'm doing at the moment on F1 2019. So looking forward to it, and that was a real fun one, and we might do another one of these test races maybe next week after week number 2 of testing is done and commenced. So like I said, give it a like if you did enjoy it. If you are new around here, subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. Have a good day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.